Okay. Hello, so today I'm making a video about Nelson Mandela, and more importantly his autobiography called Long Walk to Freedom, which I finished reading about 2 weeks ago. And my plan is today, or in the coming days, I'm going to walk to his statue in Parliament Square, central London, from where I live. As you can see, Long Walk to Freedom is the title of the books, and the kind of idea that I'm going for is he is, to me, the kind of embodiment of freedom, and really symbolises what I think true freedom is. And sort of the central point of my reasoning for that, why I believe him to be a central point for freedom, is he believed freedom was when it wasn't just this idea of when the oppressed is no longer oppressed. It's also very important that the oppressor is not oppressing, because he believed, in the book he kind of gets this across, and he's never actually particularly, or he never says that he hated the actual white people for their behaviour in South Africa and their extreme oppression during the apartheid regime, because he believes that the oppressor also suffered from the dynamic, and that true freedom meant that everybody was free, which, I mean, I believe that to be true. I suppose I don't really understand how you could disagree with that, but maybe that's just my ignorance. So, along the walk that I'm going to be taking, I will be sort of briefly laying out his life and giving a brief summary of the journey he took, which lasted about 80 years, to when he became president. This book actually ends just during the first democratic vote with all supporters, where everyone was allowed to vote in South Africa in 1994, I believe. So that's where the book ends, and that's where this video will end. But you can research his legacy as a politician once he was president, and everything else. I actually don't know what else he did after that too much, just for your own research. So that's what I'll be doing. Okay, so what I'm now, because this book has such a profound impact on me in the way I thought about people and my relations with people, and also about politics in general, I'm kind of really trying to promote with this video this book, and that I think a lot of people should read it. So maybe if you have the chance, or you're looking for something to read that's quite relevant and maybe not so fictional, I think this book is absolutely phenomenal. It is quite long. It's like 750 pages, but I promise you, this is very easy to read and truly quite funny at parts. Like, he's got a very good sense of humour, and he kind of weaves that through. So it's not just a documentation of events and then this happened and then this happened. He talks a lot about his very personal relationships with people, which is very, very interesting. So don't worry about it being a political book. I can assure you it's much more about him and his thought processes and how he had a huge impact, essentially. It's really, really good book. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read a small, third of a page from right at the end of the book, which I think really summarises, or really gets across how he felt, and maybe leads to a better understanding of what I mean by this symbol and embodiment of freedom. So he says, "I never lost hope that this great transformation would occur, not only because of the great heroes I have already cited, but because of the courage of the ordinary men and women of my country. I always knew that deep down in every human heart there was mercy and generosity. No one is born hating another person because of the colour of his skin or his background." He could have said her here, to be honest. Or his religion, her religion maybe. "People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished." So I hope that you can understand what I mean by his lack of hatred for the establishment that he was fighting against, and his true belief in human kindness, and why he never gave up during those 80 years to achieve the freedom he desired. There we are. So now I will do a little description of the route, and then I'll be walking, I suppose, but it's not going to be today. So as for the route I'll be taking, I live in North East London, where it says London in the top right corner of your screen, and Nelson Mandela's statue is in central London at the bottom left hand side. You kind of lose the perspective that it's in central London with this picture, but just believe me. And I will be going south until I reach the River Thames. Here I will see the Shard, probably St Paul's Cathedral and the Millennium Bridge, and then I will be walking along a towpath until I get to Parliament Square, which is where the statue is, which is in the Houses of Parliament in London. There'll be Big Ben and all sorts of other quite renowned buildings. So I'm really looking forward to it. He's amongst all other political statues. I know Winston Churchill's there, all the others I'm not too sure of, so maybe we'll see those as well. And along this route, as I said earlier, I will be telling the story of his life and triumph over oppression. Okay, so it's currently 11:30 almost, and I'm leaving my house. So we're going to start walking now. Yeah. What am I doing? We're now near Hackney City Farm. It's like 36 degrees today, so it's incredibly hot. But yeah, about 20 minutes into the walk now. Nelson Mandela was born in the Transkei, a very rural region of South Africa. I believe in a town, or he went on to live in a town when he was still young, called Kunu. He said that he used to go swimming in the rivers, and they would all the kids would play outside all the time, and that kind of rural landscape was very important to him throughout his life, and he always would refer back to it when seeking kind of calmness and kind of tranquility. I'm a bit out of breath, it's pretty hot. Oh, here's a pond. Some goats over there. I think if you look like in the middle, that's them. I did volunteering on this farm once. It was quite fun. I did it for like a few months. Had to like move a lot of the manure and clean like awful enclosures out, but all sorts of stories came from it, and it was good fun. One story, for example, was me and my friend, there's this kind of area where there's just hay bales, but there's kind of 3 chickens in there, and they just run around the place. This is kind of a secret, but they lay all these eggs, and they get left there because it's kind of not really maintained. It's just for the storage of hay. Me and my friend ended up having like a bit of like throwing these rotten eggs around, and they like crack against the wall, but that's a secret, and I hope nobody at the farm hears me. That was very enjoyable. I didn't bring my phone, so I don't have a map or anything. I don't know kind of where exactly where I am, but I'm pretty sure if I just keep walking, I'll find Nelson Mandela. I'll find a statue somewhere. I'll bump into him somewhere or another. Nelson Mandela then he moved to this school where it was away from his hometown, and it was the first time he saw sort of infrastructure and properly nice houses with gardens and things, where he started to study law. He studied law throughout his life, even while he was in prison, and so that was a big part of his life, was his studies. It was around this time that Nelson Mandela then he kind of ran away from his more rural background, like literally ran away without permission, to move to Johannesburg, where he was again studying to be a lawyer at a university there, and he was living in basically a sort of like a slum area, because the blacks and whites were already segregated. So he was living in pretty much poverty. He said he had one room and there was no electricity or fresh water. So, but he was studying to become a lawyer, where he would then go on to open. Actually, no, that's much longer in the future. This woman in the background is having a bit of a breakdown or something. So I apologise. Well, hopefully she feels better soon. We'll be back with the Nelson Mandela updates any moment now. Come on. Oh, some trees. While he was in Johannesburg, I believe that was when he first started to be part of the ANC, the African National Congress, and started his kind of political and social change kind of lifestyle while he was studying law. They were inflicting ban orders on him, so he wouldn't be able to leave his house during certain times. So he was already under deep restrictions. I'm having a little break.
Oh my god, it was so windy. Like, the amount of sound that went on.
There you have the obligatory nice artwork on a purely industrial site. Quite funny. That's Big Ben. So we are probably about, there's Big Ben, just there. So we'll probably be about 15 minutes now. There we go. It's the River Thames. I'm all zoomed in. It's all a problem. Can't zoom out. After joining the ANC, and they did a lot of passive protests, the ANC, and Nelson Mandela was running his own law firm at this time as well, but the government, which was called the Nationalist Party, they became very, very violent in how they dealt with these passive protests. And Nelson Mandela, throughout the book, kind of gets the idea across that it's the oppressor which defines the nature of the conflict. So if the oppressor is being violent, then you have to react to it with violence. That was his philosophy, and that was the only way that they could deal with it, was to become this violent organisation. So they set up I can't remember what it's called, it's an African name, I can't really pronounce it. And Nelson Mandela was the leader of this organisation, which was going to kind of place bombs in important governmental infrastructure and factories and things. And during this time, he had to go undercover or go, what do you call it? Be off the map, go into hiding. And he went around different local African countries on this big tour and got given money to help fund this secret army. That statue is my great uncle. While he was training this secret army, he was actually found by the police which is when he went... Oh no, I've missed an important factor. Forgot. I forgot to say that there was during when he was in Johannesburg, and this was before the military team that he created, his team were put on a treason trial, which was because the government believed that they were trying to overthrow the government with like this communist sort of ideology, and because communism was banned, so they got put on trial, and they were, after like I think it went on for like 2 or 3 years, they were called innocent. They were declared innocent. I don't know my law stuff, which was a big. So they all thought they were okay, but then just a few years later, they were put on trial for the military army that they created, which was blowing up the government. And guess what? They got sentenced to life in prison, which is when he went to Robben Island. Nelson Mandela, there he is. We did it, everyone. We did the walk. It's on. I just spent maybe 5-6 minutes talking to nobody. I thought it was recording, but I had it on the camera setting, so I took a picture basically, and then stood and sat in front of it and talked. This is quite difficult because I was like, my life was going this way, and I was up to here, and I told a story, and I was very happy with it. And now I've just been shot back to where I was, so my timeline's a bit screwed up. At the end of the video so far, I mean, I hope you enjoyed that little walk I did. It was quite good fun. It was quite a while. It took me, I don't know how long, I didn't have my phone, but it was good to see the statue. I ran out of footage there at the end. I mean, it's camera space. I don't really understand how camera space works, but I ran out of it. Surely there's just a little bit more space. Anyway. And I hope you enjoyed, like, what I was going for there was, I was trying to make this video, to be honest, a bit more structured and quite clean and actually really succinct and dedicated to the book, but I kind of always end up doing things a little bit more haywire and just stumbling along, making kind of inaccurate statements about his life. But I think that's just the way I function. I apologise for that. I think it came across quite human, that kind of walk, and that was like, probably maybe it didn't, maybe it was shit. The book's really good, and where I got up to was I was saying he was put on trial to go to Robben Island for his guerrilla army that he was secretly leading. So he was found in his hiding, he went, they got put on trial for this guerrilla army. Sort of understandably, I will be honest. I mean, I think he was a great man, I think he was doing lots of good things. But I can see why they didn't want him blowing up things. I still think it was good that he did it. And he expected the death sentence, they all expected the death sentence. In the last speech he did before the judge's verdict, he said, "I'm willing to die for this cause." In fact, I may be able to find it in the book. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll be right back. I'll just get the little speech. Okay, I found the little part of the Ravona trial. So he says, "During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against the white domination, and I fought against black domination." Again, that's what I was saying about earlier. "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." That's what he said in the Ravona trial. Pretty badass moment. Again, it's a good book. So they get convicted. This has all gone through. I started this, I was like, wow, this is going to be a lovely video addressing a very important person to me. It's all gone wrong. They get put on trial in Robben Island. Well, they get put on trial, they get convicted of life imprisonment, him and Walter Sisulu and some others. Catharado, I think one of them is called. He goes to Robben Island for 18 years. Pretty awful lifestyle there, basically just extreme physical labour, poor nourishment, really poor nourishment. Come on, it's got to be stuff. Anyway, so 18 years in Robben Island, which was this island with a prison on it, quite far off the coast, and 9 years in this other prison, which I can't remember the name of. But in his last couple of years in prison, he was in political talks with the government, trying to basically ask for freedom so that there could be democracy in South Africa. This was due to big pressure from international affairs and also the population of South Africa. Many of them were starting to riot and things, I believe. And he was freed, and he kept talking to the clerk, and then they kind of say, alright, we'll do a democracy, and that was a big thing, we need to educate people on how to vote. And even then, during the voting systems, the whites banned all the buses which would take from the kind of slums and poorer areas where the black people lived. They banned the buses which would take them to the polling stations. So Nelson Mandela, I think they hired loads of buses and drove them all there. It's pretty cool. Bit of quick thinking. He's really impressive, I tell you. And then he was elected president. So it's a really beautiful story. And he lived to 95 years. And there we are. And the last line of the book is something like, but I can rest only for a moment, for with freedom come responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended. Okay? That was in 1994, and he went on to live for another 19 years. I think, yeah. So hopefully all of our long walks to freedom are not yet over either, and I think it's a mentality we should all possess. Hope you liked the video. I kind of make these for myself really, but may mean something to somebody else. And have a good day.